Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Double Stuff Podcast today, where we're double the hosts, double the topics, and double the fun. I'm Charity.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Dan.
And today, I know you're in suspense. Ooh. We're talking about my favorite genre, which is mysteries.
Who did it?
Yeah.
Who
So
done it?
when I was looking up stuff to
didn't?
talk about today, I kind of stayed more on like the book side because that's my favorite genre, but I do have some information about like movies and stuff. So a fun fact, when I was looking at a few websites, I was looking up book genres that make the most money, and crime and mystery come in second place at $728.2 million.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, it came in second. First place was romance.
Of course. Yeah.
All's fair, love and war, and murder.
First place was romance at $1.44 billion.
Of course.
But an interesting fact that I did find, when you're thinking of, mysteries and detective novels and stuff, you automatically go to Sherlock Holmes. And so I was looking at, you guys know Masterclass, like, website you can sign up and do different classes and stuff.
Yeah.
So they had an article called The History of Mystery Novels. And so, when you think of Sherlock Holmes as like the first classic detective, those stories weren't introduced until 1887 in a study in Scarlet. So they said that most critics and scholars credit Edgar Allan Poe
Yeah.
in inventing the
America.
detective.
I could see.
Although his detective was French
That's true.
for Murders in the Rue Morgue.
And that was in 1841. So
We
a
read that in
little bit
school.
before, but I just thought that was super interesting because I automatically go to Sherlock Holmes, but I didn't think of Edgar Allan Poe first. So do you guys like mysteries is that your favorite genre, or what do you prefer? It's my favorite, so I'll just start off by saying that.
Okay.
Genre is always going to be comedy for me first and foremost, but in the past maybe 5 or 6 years, I've been kind of getting into more. Now, admittedly, I haven't read a lot of mysteries, but I have watched a lot of adaptations, some which I do like. That's when I started watching a lot of Masterpiece, and at the time they were still
Girl with the
producing.
dragon tattoo.
Which
I was going to be more literary. I was going to say, Agatha Christie.
Well, they started out of those books.
Masterpiece just celebrated their 50th anniversary because that was
Yeah.
January 10th.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and Agatha Christie, in terms of the starting of her writing, they just celebrated 100 years.
Really?
For Agatha Christie, yeah.
Wow.
Like, I think with Agatha Christie, I watched a documentary about her. Apparently, her and her sister got into some kind of little, not really argument, but I think the sister bet Agatha Christie is like, I bet you can't write a book, or I bet you can't write a book on a character.
Oh yeah, watch this.
Watch this, and I'll write any of them.
That's basically what it was. She was like, "You're on, I'll write," and then that was when she produced the Poirot character. Before the end of the year, I actually binge watched all the Hercule Poirot series. I think
For those that have no idea what you're talking
that's
about.
true.
Okay.
I know I'm not saying his name right because I'm an American without an accent, but no, it's definitely not that.
Sorry, France.
Actually, in this case, sorry, Belgium, because
Hercules Poirot? Is that what it is?
yeah, it's
Hercules Poirot?
Poirot.
It sounds like a disease the way you say it.
David Suchet, if you're listening to this, I apologize to the utmost. Hercule Poirot, he was a Belgian detective that I like his character because he seems pretty laid back, even though he's really like very orderly and meticulous, but he's able to pick up on, just the slight, you said that you were at this train station at 12:42, but that there is no train station that leaves at 12. It's like the quintessential mystery thing. And I think also with her books is what we consider, at the climax of the film where they gather all the suspects together and he starts
and they all just willingly sit there while they're accused of murder.
Yes, I know. I'm like, I partially kind of wish that happened in real life. You bring in all the suspects.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure you're wondering why I gather all of you here today. And it's like, one of you killed Mr. Smith, and then they're all looking like, well, it couldn't be me. And then you start going through the, the breakdowns. But I actually kind of like that.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, while I haven't read a lot of the books, watching that in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, let me see if I can figure it out before he does. That's kind of how. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that thinks
her
that.
books are very classic.
They are, yeah.
And doing the research for today, they were the masterclass website was talking about like how to write a mystery, and they had a basic blueprint. Like you can obviously stray away from those rules, but it was saying that one of the fun things about doing a mystery is dropping little clues so that your viewer or the reader, the audience can solve the mystery along with the detective.
With you. That is what I like.
Yeah, and so her books, they're very good, but they're very basic and traditional of dropping clues so that way you can figure out who the murderer is.
Right.
Which I think in terms of the suspense, which is why the Columbo series was groundbreaking, because they start out with
the murder.
With the murder and who did it. Right. So then you're waiting for them. You're waiting for the people to figure out, oh, he did it.
Yeah.
When are you going to figure out he did it? Because we know, and we're getting tired of
just
you
one
not
more
knowing.
Thing.
Yeah. So I think that was also a groundbreaking thing with, we already know from the get-go who caused the crime.
Right.
And so me personally, I kind of prefer the storybook approach, the classic story, because I don't know, it seems like nowadays, even if you watch like some of those Law and Order type things, which I guess maybe that's more crime drama, but
that's sort of a different genre.
Sort of a different one, but then you have the element in there because you still have to figure out who did this. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's more gritty, but I guess the crime drama is just a branch off of that.
Yeah.
But I do kind of prefer that because it's more literary murder versus like something that could have actually happened. I don't know. You feel that bit of a detachment to it.
Well, one genre that I've recently discovered is cozy mysteries, and so
Monk.
it's more
Monk,
of like
Psych.
I hate to say it's more of like an old lady genre because there's no. I mean, I like it, so whatever that says about me, but there's no like sex, there's no like blood and guts or whatever. Like it's just a common.
It's just a good old fashioned murder.
Yeah.
Well, it is. But it's a nice murder mystery, but it's something that you can, cozy up and read by the fire or whatever.
Sink your teeth into like a vampire murder.
It's not like there's nothing bad. It's like a Hallmark murder mystery.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is.
That's our family favorites. That you said Psych and Monk.
Oh yeah. My sister Christy and I created a monster. Well, not monster. I created a very
a monster.
No, I got her into Psych, and now she's like head over heels. But I like Psych because I consider it almost like a Law and Order parody.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because it's basically that same thing. Yeah. And that's what drew me to it, because I'm like, comedy is always going to be top for me, and then other things will kind of follow suit. So I guess you're making light of a situation like that, which in real life it wouldn't be, but maybe that kind of takes away from the grittiness of what Law and Order and all those other shows would have.
Well, and Psych in particular is supposed to be like a Sherlock type story, right? Isn't that kind of like he's very like good at deduction and observation?
The gimmicks that they use in that show is very audience friendly, where it's the close up of him squinting his eyes, and then it goes into like a highlight of what he's looking at.
Yeah,
and with all these like. But that's it. He pretends that he's psychic, but all he is highly aware of. He
also has like a zoom feature camera lens for his eyes.
Does.
Like if I had that, I could solve murders too. I could see
like
20
over 5 or something like that.
Yeah. I'm like, heck with that. I can solve a lot. I can do all that too. Gosh.
Yeah. So as far as like mystery and that genre goes, when did you guys get into that? Because I've always loved that. When I was little, any girl that grew up in the 90s probably loved the Adventures of Mary-Kate and Ashley books, and they did the little trench coat series, and we'll solve any crime by dinner time. And
Pass.
That's true. Yeah, obviously you guys can do that, but I read all of those books. I read Boxcar Children. I read any mystery thing that I could get my hands on, and I read a lot of books when I was younger. So after I read all the kids' books, I was still like in 4th grade, and I was like, okay, there's no more books left. That's when I started reading Agatha Christie.
Okay,
a lot of the adult books. So I've been doing mysteries.
Did you ever do John Grisham?
Mm-mm.
Okay. That was big for me, John Grisham. And even Michael Crichton's kind of like a mixed bag, but he's got some good mysteries and thrillers in there as well, like The Rising Sun and
Airframe. Airframe's a really good one.
Yep, that one too. That's more for the boy side, I guess.
So
John Grisham and Michael Crichton. Yeah.
Mysteries for men.
Well, I was never really into like obviously not the Mary Kate stuff, but Encyclopedia Brown.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I've heard that before.
I did get into Encyclopedia Brown.
When I was young, I did that, and then as I got older, I started reading a lot of Agatha Christie, and then I kind of fell out of the mystery genre, at least book-wise, for a while, and got more into it in films.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of like that too. I did. Now, Charity said she did grow up, reading a lot of the Mary-Kate and Ashley books. I read a couple of those. Again, I think this is part of the reason why maybe I never got into fiction. I just read it. I read the
you
words.
read it wrong.
Reading from left to right, that's obviously the incorrect way.
Is that like you read it halfway, you figure it out, you skip to the end, you're like, okay, I'm done.
Okay, but you also got to take into account the age group. I think probably by the time, like around the time that I was reading the Mary-Kate and Ashley books, you were probably too old for them because they had.
Did they write them?
No,
I highly
no, they
doubt
were just
that.
they were just written for but they had the
Well,
adventures
they've
of
done
Mary-Kate
so
and
much.
Ashley.
I don't know.
And then when they got older, like in junior high, they had the new adventures. So they ditched the trench coats and they were at like cheerleader camp or, a school function or something. And there were boys involved. So it was still a mystery book, but it aged as they aged. So I think at that point you were too old to.
I did read a lot of Boxcar Children.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
Kids.
I thought it was Boxcar Children.
Wasn't it Boxcar Kids?
No, that's
Boxcar Children.
No, it was Boxcar Children. You're making a reference to another episode when you were trying to mock and you call them the Boxcar Kids with a Z because we're cool like that.
Oh.
Kids Bop.
Boxcar Kids Bop.
I'd watch that.
Now that's what I call Boxcar Children. No, but I did read a lot of those. But in terms of having an appreciation for like, ooh, something happened, let's figure out who it is. We're getting close. We're getting the clues. I don't know if I really got to that point until I was an adult. I was kind of introduced to like Arthur Conan Doyle stuff and Agatha Christie. So yeah, so probably my early 20s. So I mean, really late in the game, yes. But I think that's when I had more of an appreciation for suspense and for seeing if you can figure something out versus just, I'm reading a book. Oh, this happened. Okay, well, that was a great book. I'll put it on the shelf and go to the next one.
You just read books wrong. Like, you still don't like fiction.
It's because, I admit, I did try to read some Sherlock, and I was just like, I can't get into it. Maybe now, this has been about...
No, you won't.
I
am offensed at this comment.
You have no faith in me. I feel like, well, let me give a bit of an example. So we haven't done it yet, but me and Charity we were trying to get our hand in kind of writing a mystery episode, like a radio drama that we were going to do, that we would love to do in the future because we're still in the writing process of it.
Okay,
but we're kind of writing a mystery that happens on a college campus. But with that knowledge of me knowing I'm going to write for something, that's when I would kind of read it. So like I said, I like reading in terms of research. So I'll read how to do a mystery and how to analyze characters and stuff. And then I write the fiction based off of that. So that's just how my mind works. So I don't necessarily read for entertainment, if that makes sense. I read for research. So I would totally read a Sherlock Holmes or Agatha Christie so I can be like, oh, I can use that element for the script that we're writing. So that's just I can't say I've always been like that, but that's just how I deal with it. It has nothing to do with mystery or suspense. It's just how I do
Sherlock
books.
Holmes, I think it was sophomore year. We started off with the Red-Headed League, and that was the first story I ever read. And like I was, and I knew of Sherlock Holmes obviously, but I think that was the first one that I actually sat down and read straight through. And I was sucked in from like the first page. I love those stories. As you all know, I love British shows and accents and all that stuff. So I love Sherlock, Grantchester, Endeavour, Inspector Lewis, like all
Father
of those.
Brown.
Yeah, Father Brown,
I like
all of
Father
those
Brown.
shows.
Yeah.
Even if it's a bad mystery, it doesn't matter. I would still watch it.
Yeah, because we got to figure out this crime.
Actually, oddly enough, I think I prefer the mystery genre as a visual medium like a film or a television series over books at this point. And I think the main reason is because the author has to put in, like, the words that you're reading are specifically there to tell you exactly what the author wants you to know at any given time. Because of that, they have to put in like red herrings and stuff like that. And then a lot of times, whereas like I think in like film and television, you can add visual elements to a scene, whether it's like an actor's like portrayal or like facial movements or something like that, where you can kind of get extra information that you can either miss it if you're not paying close enough attention, or you can pick up on it and solve the mystery quicker, which I'm terrible at. So I think I actually like that sort of element of extra that's involved in the visual versions.
Yeah,
the one
I
thing
agree.
with the visual versions, you just gotta suspend your disbelief. the Columbos, the Monks, the Murder, She Wrote, the Sykes, is how are there's so many people getting murdered around these characters,
especially in that one town.
And they're the only one that can figure it out.
You do think about that. It's like it all happens in that town. Like that's a heavily crime area.
We need to fund the police in this town.
I'm like, this isn't safe at all. Gosh, like in movies and in books, it sounds good, but I'm like, every week there's a murder.
Yeah, every time if you were walking down the street and you saw Adrian Monk, you'd probably be like, it's time to leave. Something's gonna happen.
Oh yeah.
You see a guy in a deerstalker hat and a giant magnifying glass and be like, oh, okay.
No way.
Well, without sounding gross, the one thing I do like about murder mysteries, if you're reading a series or whatever, because of what you just said, like if it's set in a small town or whatever, the author has to think of different people to murder, different ways for them to be murdered. And I love, this is gonna sound weird, I love the creativity of the murder. Of like, oh, they got killed this way this time. Yeah. I like that. It's so weird. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it, but there's no other way to say it.
There's no other way to say that.
Well, but I also, in that vein,
another way.
I don't like it when the local police are presented as just bumbling fools. Yeah, because that really throws me off. Or it's a cheap trick to elevate your protagonist. Somehow the victim happened to fall into a wood chipper. It must have been an accidental suicide or something like that.
So one that I thought was really unique. Did you guys watch Knives Out?
I love Knives Out.
Yeah, I thought that was a really clever way of sort of twisting it, where it's like they're basically like, we're going to tell you what happened. You don't really understand what happened until 3 times later.
Yeah. And it had that trick that you were talking about at the end, where the big reveal, where everybody's in the room and he's basically going to call it out.
That classic monologue.
It did have a lot of classic elements, which I love. The only thing I didn't like about the movie is the girl kept crying through the whole thing. She just was so teary-eyed. I was like, get over it.
You're just a suspect in a murder.
I understand the problem, and like, however, if you're accused of murder and there's problems going on,
there were some forced scenes in that.
You don't have time to cry. Like, cry later. Yeah. You're about to get accused of murder. Suck it up, chick. Like, I can't.
Not only that, but
that was actually the working title for the movie.
The Christopher Evans or Chris Evans character was a little at the end when it goes into all that he did to set it up. You're just kind of like, but that didn't really meet the character expectations. It was a little bit higher than what you sold him as.
Yeah, and the whole barfing thing, I got tired of that. I was just like, just lie. Just don't puke, just lie. Anyway.
For those of you who haven't seen the movie, don't listen to this last part of the
spoilers.
Since we were talking about the suspense and stuff, would we just, as like we talked about, if we were to put ourselves in a movie, we'd do some kind of weird mystery solving something. Like, would we be better as the solving the crime, or are we
better as being the one murdered?
No. I'm just talking about, are we just better just being the indifferent suspect and be like,
we would be the red herrings. We would be the ones that they would assume, because we would mess it up. I swear I didn't do it.
That's like in all the old Perry Mason shows where they're like in there holding the murder weapon. I'm like, don't touch the evidence.
Don't touch it.
If you see a bloody knife, leave it on the floor.
That'd be Alan. What do I do with this dripping blood all over my it's all over my shirt?
It's everywhere, guys. It's everywhere. We're slipping, sliding in here.
I would be the bumbling detective, be like the local police or whatever, because I am terrible at solving mysteries.
Be like, blood? That's obviously ketchup, you idiot.
Well, we're going to wrap it up for today. This was a really fun conversation.
We're going to solve the crime.
Yes. Well, if you guys had fun listening to the podcast, let us know today. And if you have any suggestions on new book series or movies or TV shows, I'm all for it. I'm always looking for a new series to sink my teeth into, like a vampire, Sarah said earlier. So anyways, follow us on social media, and thanks for listening today.
We'll mark this as evidence.
Exactly.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. You can find other episodes on doublestuffpod.com or on your favorite podcast apps. You can also participate in the fun on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Double Stuff Podcast and on Twitter at Double Stuff P. That's the letter P.